What's up, Penguins fans? Happy Black Friday, and the Penguins get their 5th win in a row, 7 out of their last 9. They're back in a playoff spot. The vibes are very, very good. For today's episode, we're going to fully recap the game against the Flyers on Friday evening. This is also the last episode that you all will see me in my childhood room. I'm going back to Richmond for the next few days before we drive up to Pittsburgh on Thursday, and then I will be with my new setup probably starting on Friday, if not the week after. It is going to look a lot different than this. I'm very much excited to move up there and hopefully go to a lot more games. We actually got tickets to a game on December 12th against the Dallas Stars. That's probably going to be the first of many that I will be in attendance for the rest of the season. But for this episode, we're going to get into the fourth line and how good that line is looking. Also going to get into Sidney Crosby, continue to own the Flyers, how bad the Flyers truly are, and just, how good this team is playing right now. And we'll also preview the game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is set for Saturday night at PPG Paints Arena. So look for all that right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. You want to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. So another Pittsburgh Penguins victory, a 4-1 win over the Philadelphia Flyers. That's 5 in a row, 7 out of 9. 20 points, 24 and 25 banked tonight. And they're up to third place in the Metropolitan Division. They're 1 point behind the New York Islanders for second place in the Metro, which would be 6 points behind the Devils for first. It's almost like, wow. I think the 7-game losing streak, it was bad, but it wasn't like a death blow to this team. They've been playing some very good hockey these last couple of weeks, which has allowed them to climb back into a playoff spot. They've gotten 15 out of a possible 18 points in their last 9 games. This stretch has saved the season. But the biggest thing I think I want to take away from this game, the fourth line right now has been incredible. And, I didn't know how much of a difference Teddy Blueger was going to make when he came back. Wow. I could definitely say this has been quite the difference. You look at the stats on Natural Stat Trick tonight. The fourth line, by far, the Penguins' best line. Poehling, Blueger, Archibald. When they were on the ice at 5v5, the Penguins had 75% of the shot attempts, 3 goals for, 0 goals against, 89.5% of the expected goals, 88% of the scoring chances, 83% of the high danger chances. This line is playing better than the third line right now, which I did not think was going to be the case heading into this season. Blueger has been awesome since coming back, was directly involved in the first goal, shoots it, goes off Carter Hart's pad. Archibald cleans up the garbage. Second one, Blueger is able to thread a nice pass over to Ryan Poehling. Not thread a nice pass, excuse me. He's able to shoot a harmless shot from the point. Ryan Poehling deflects it in. Poehling gets another goal. This line is humming right now. And, 2/3 of the players on it are players that, excuse me, I just really did not know how much they were going to affect the team this year. For example, Poehling, when he came over, I was kind of like, okay, maybe he's just a throw-in. So far has 5 goals this season. He's playing very well right now. And I was impressed with him even before these last couple of games. I think he was really starting to find his game a little bit. I think obviously Blueger being back helps him, but he's been a very productive fourth liner. And Josh Archibald, I know people are maybe going to come and clown me in the comments, come clown me on my Twitter and stuff, saying like, ha, 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 he's playing well. You didn't think he would. People, I love being wrong. Like I give the best analysis I can just because I have the platform here. I give the best takes I can. I hope I'm right. But for something like this, I want someone like Josh Archibald to prove me wrong. And so far he has. He has 4 goals on the fourth line this season. And the Penguins, they looked at what he's done in previous seasons, his 10, 11 goal per 82 game season. They were like, okay, we think he can do that here in the right environment. And so far he's doing it. I mean, he's already basically halfway. He's very close to halfway to double-digit goals. We're already 21 games, excuse me, into the season. He's playing much better these last few games. I have no last few games, honestly, last few weeks. I have no complaints about him right now. 900K. He's doing what a fourth line player should be doing on this team for not even $1 million. Defensively, he's playing well. He's drawn the most amount of penalties on the team. Also has 4 goals. He's thrown his body around. He's been a very good player, for a lot of games this season. And I'm very glad I can be eating crow on him. I'll gladly say that. Poehling as well. I think he's been defensively, very solid. Penalty kill, which is usually not his strength with his game. I think he's also been pretty solid when it comes to that. And offensively, you've been seeing him contribute, at times tonight. 2 goals. The other one was he just banked it off Carter Hart and in from behind the net. And speaking of Carter Hart, I don't know why he continues to struggle against the Penguins. He's been having a really good year, top 5 to 10 in goals saved above expected. Had a really hot start. It's continued that start. It just stinks that the rest of his team is absolutely horrendous. But the fourth line carried this team to the win tonight. Yeah, Sidney Crosby also had his goal. I'm going to go into that just a second. But the reason the Penguins won this game is because the fourth line was very solid. And it's been playing that way for the last several games. Teddy Blueger so far this season, he has been awesome since coming back. I am trying to go and look at his stats overall here on Natural Stat Trick because they are good. I'm going to go find, if I can find them here. So Teddy Blueger, he has only played 6 games this season. So about break even when he's on the ice, about 50% of the shot attempts. Goals for, goals against, about 57%. I apologize if you heard my big dog downstairs barking. My family down there is just playing some games and stuff. Expected goals, though, when he's on the ice, the Penguins had 59.6% of those. Scoring chances about 50-50. High danger-wise, 65% of the high danger chances when he's on the ice. High danger actual goals for, 75%, 3-4, 1 against. His underlyings are very solid. He is the glue that makes that line go, and you're seeing that so far. Again, I did not know that he was going to make this much of an impact coming back. I think the penalty kill has also really improved since he returned as well. And, to think that he was almost traded in the Jeff Petry trade over the summer. Remember, I was told that the Penguins wanted to originally do Pettersson and Petry. Actually, excuse me. Apologize. I was originally told that the Penguins wanted to trade Pettersson and Blueger for Petry. Imagine if they had done that. Just pause the podcast. Imagine if that had been the trade for Petry right now. Where would this team be? Don't think they would be where they are right now. That's for sure. With how Pettersson's played this season, with how Blueger's played in the 6 games since he's coming back. I didn't want to trade Mike Matheson, but kind of thankful that they did, at least if they wanted Petry that bad. So the fourth line, they were the reason why they won this. Their underlyings continue to be spectacular. The top 2 lines, they're humming. They're still doing good. Fourth line's been playing better. It's really just that third line that they got to figure out. I think if they can get another good third liner before the deadline, I think this team will be much harder to play against. Someone like an Evan Rodriguez, something like that, just because Jeff Carter's just kind of in the mud at times. It'd be nice if they could shed Kasperi Kapanen's contract, though I'm not really sure how much success Ron Hextall's going to have with that. Brock McGinn's been playing a lot better as of late. Janton Heinen, though, still needs to wake up. But that's it. I think if they can get another third liner in there, I think this team can really go some places. But the fourth line right now, again, continues to be absolute just mint, I think is the way to say. Heck, Mike Sullivan even put them out there for a power play opportunity late in the game when it was 4-1. He easily could have just said, hey, top guys, go out, do your thing. But he's like, no, you know what? I'm just going to put my fourth line out there. They've been the reason why we're winning, and had some pretty good zone time and actually had a couple quality chances. So you wouldn't even know the first. You honestly wouldn't even tell the difference between them and the first unit with how the first unit's played the last few weeks. But yeah, can't say enough about those 3 players. Wanted to spend the first segment talking about that. Just great stuff from them. And then if they continue to play well, that's one less problem this team will have down the stretch. So that does it for this first segment of the podcast. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into other players that I thought impressed me in this game, and also just get into just how awful the Flyers are and how this rivalry just honestly continues to go downhill a little bit. But before I get to that, if I can get my wonderful, beautiful Bet Online promo right up here. It's your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Think of the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, we've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest, easiest way to get your betting fix. You can head to the website today or to use your phone to learn more. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at Universal Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Other players who I thought stood out to me in this one. In breaking news, Sidney Crosby still owns the Philadelphia Flyers. I got that confirmed by sources on my phone. Yes. And yes, obviously my girlfriend is my background for this. It's all on the video. Yes, can confirm Sidney Crosby still owns the Flyers. And if I believe I saw this correctly, if I can find this stat here, he's I believe he now has the record for the most goals scored ever against the Flyers. I'm just going to double check this stat here real quick. Yeah, sole possession of the NHL record for the most goals scored against Philadelphia Flyers. That is 52. You go on Wikipedia, you can probably find under the Philadelphia Flyers franchise that Sidney Crosby is in fact the owner. I will always forever love that they continue to boo him every time he's announced in Philadelphia or when he touches the puck. It only makes him stronger. Nice deflection goal off a shot from the point. The Penguins did a really nice job with some of their deflections tonight. You haven't really seen that a lot with some of their goals this season. A lot of them are just clean looks, but a couple of goals tonight were off deflections. So nice job there, Sid. Great game. I thought. Just going over, looking at the rest of the numbers. I thought the second line continued to play very well. Of course, that is the Zucker, Malkin, Russ line. Got caved in attempt-wise a little bit, but scoring chances, I think, were, they had 61% of those. Crosby, Gensel, Raquel, when they were on the ice, they had 65% of the shot attempts. They also had 74% of the expected goals, 72% of the scoring chances. They continue to hum ever since Raquel was put up there. I want that as the first line for the rest of the season. P.O. Joseph, I think, continues to impress me a lot. He got walked, I think, once or twice in the game, but the game was basically over at that point. He's just really rounding into form lately, and I'm really liking his game. I also will say Tristan Jarry, another solid performance. Wasn't really tested. Well, he was tested in the first few minutes. The Flyers had the first 5 shots of the game, but the Penguins were able to take over that period relatively quickly. After that, the one goal that he allowed, kind of, but it's 4-0. I'm not going to judge him that hard. He allowed one goal off 30 shots, so 29 out of 30 for him. That's 3 really solid starts in a row for him. Hopefully, he can keep building off that. I think Chris Letang was fine. I think that's 2 decently solid performances in a row for him right now. Honestly, no one really fully stood out to me outside of that. Everyone I think was just humming along, playing well. That said, Jeff Petry I thought had a little bit of an off game. He got kind of walked by Kevin Hayes on the sequence that led to the Flyers goal. Don't really know what he was doing on that play, to be honest with you. Just did not have his stick in the right place, and just his skating it on there was kind of piss poor, to be honest. And that's weird for him because he's been pretty, so we're looking for. He's been pretty consistent, I should say, the last couple of weeks, I think, with his play. So kind of uncharacteristic to see him have an off game like that. But, the game was over at that point. If there was another thing I didn't like, it was that the Penguins were kind of letting up with about, I guess, the last half of the third period. And I get it. You have another game on Saturday night. You're up 4-0 with 10 minutes to go. You're kind of like, okay, let's just coast to the end here. We're playing a really bad team. They're just going to give up. You give up that goal. Okay, whatever. But the Penguins, they can kind of continue to surrender some chances in the third period. I think the Flyers hit 1 or 2 posts after that. Penguins were just kind of a little bit sloppy in the defensive zone. Just clean that up. I don't want to see them turtle in those situations. I think if they were playing a better team, the Penguins could have paid the price a little bit. I think they got a little lucky that the Flyers are just really bad. And speaking of that, I'm going to end the segment with this. Man, that Flyers team is bad. I mean, wow. I know I have a lot of older listeners that listen to this show, and I get it. I'm 25. I'm a quarter of a century years old. I've been watching the sport for as long as I can remember. I don't think I have seen a worse Flyers team in my lifetime than the team I watched tonight. They stink. Like, that is a bad, bad Flyers team. And I get it. They got some injuries. Ryan Ellis is, of course, hurt. Sean Couturier James Van Riemsdyk, Travis Konecny, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, freaking Owen Tippett and Kevin Hayes are on their top line people. You look at their forward group and it's just a whole pile of mud. Their defensive group is not much better. Carter Hart's had a really good year. John Tortorella, kudos to him for taking that job. And it's going to be a long year in Philly. That team is bad. And the Battle of Pennsylvania just continues to go downhill. I remember when this rivalry used to be top 3 in the league. I don't think it's there anymore. These last few years, it just hasn't been the same. And I think a lot of Penguins fans, I'd love to hear from you about this. Have you just kind of lost some hate for the Flyers? Because, when I was teenager, when I was a teenager, I obviously hated this team. But when I got to college, all throughout that, I kind of started to hate them less, to be honest. Just because, I guess it's just because I'm getting older. And obviously I started the podcast, so I obviously to be a lot more objective and stuff. But I think it's just because this rivalry is just not the same anymore. Just not a lot of passion, I feel like. I think the Penguins, it also isn't, the best that the Penguins, they've gotten a lot better over the course of this rivalry, while the Flyers have just been stuck in neutral or just really bad like you're seeing right now. That game wasn't even close tonight. I think after the first, 5 or 6 minutes, the Penguins had the much better of the play, and they took it to Philly. It's going to be a long year there. They had that nice hot start to the season, but man, it wasn't even close. It was like watching an NHL team play an AHL team. And, I hope Chuck Fletcher stays the general manager there for a long time. I didn't like how the Flyers were kind of trying to goon it up at times when they're down 3-4-0. I think that's just a loser mentality. Marcus Pettersson fighting Nick Delorier was definitely a little weird. But, it's a John Tortorella team. What do you expect? He's always hated the Penguins. Players under him will always try to goon it up against the Penguins. Did it in Columbus, did it with New York. I'm not surprised. So, it's almost like a match made in heaven when he's with the Flyers. But yeah, I think that I had in the back of my head, I'm like, the Penguins should win this game. I just didn't think they would be this dominant over the Flyers, but they got the win they may needed to. Mostly everyone had a really solid performance, and, they're on to the next one. At this point, the Penguins will be back in action on Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we will be previewing that game coming up right after these messages. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host here, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. I also will say towards the very end of the show, I will have some thoughts on the Winter Classic jersey. Got the scoop verified on that. I said it was going to come out on Black Friday. I said what the design was going to look like. I will go 2 out of 2 for that, even though of course, again, not a massive insider here, but when I hear something, I like to think it's going to happen. And, I got both of those right, which is nice. But, the Penguins, they will play their third and final game against the Maple Leafs on Saturday night at PPG Paints Arena after the Penguins lost to the Maple Leafs on my birthday. It was a 5-2 loss. Toronto lost to New Jersey. They beat the Buffalo. They lost to the Islanders. They beat the Devils. They beat the Devils after that. And then they beat the Wild, actually. So they are actually coming on. They are going to come in there on a back-to-back as well. So both teams will be coming in with the same situation. Though this is a full road back-to-back for the Leafs. So this just makes it that much tougher. So the Leafs, they've won 3 out of their last 5 games ever since they won that game against Penguins. Heck, they've won, if you want to include that, they've won 4 of their last 6. And you're going to see the same lines. Michael Bunting with Austin Matthews and William Nylander. John Tavares is with Mitch Marner. Kalle Jarnkrok is up there, which is interesting. But I also think that comes down to, I think he was up there the last time as well. Wayne Simmons, Pontus Holmberg, and Alexander Kerfoot, on the third line. And then Aston Reese, David Kampf, and Pierre Engvall. The Maple Leafs are very hurt defensively. Morgan Riley, he is out. TJ Brody, he is out. Jake Muzzin, he is out. That is 3 of their top 6 defensemen. Jordy Bennett, he's also out as well. He is Ilya Samsonov. He is out still. I want to see who played tonight. So Matt Murray got the start tonight. I would expect Eric Shalgren to get the start against the Penguins on Saturday. And for the Penguins against the Leafs, I would expect Casey DeSmith to go like he did last time. So the Leafs, they are hurt a lot defensively. 3 of their best 6 defensemen are out. Right now, defensively, Mark Giordano with Justin Hull, Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Lindgren, Victor Mete and Max Hollowell. Defensively, just not a good unit there. The Penguins will need to take advantage of that. Last time they kind of let the top line beat them. Michael Bunting had a really good game against the Penguins. I think Nylander played well as well. Mitch Marner, I believe, had a goal. So, they're going to have to really contain that top line with Matthews. I'm just making sure. Jeez, I almost screwed that up. Yeah, sorry. Marner's with Tavares. But still, Bunting and Matthews played really well in that game. Nylander did too. But also, the Tavares-Marner line, I think that one also ate the Penguins alive just about a week and a half ago. So they will have to be on high alert for both of the Leafs' top two lines. I'm not really concerned about Toronto's bottom six. I don't really think there's a lot of good players down there that can really score. It's just mainly the top six that concerns me. So the Penguins are going to have to play diligent defensively. Casey Smith is going to have to play better. I think he let in a couple of lame goals that last time. So we'll have to see how he plays with that. This is an opponent that the Penguins know very well. Obviously, this month they beat them in Toronto. Leafs return their favor in Pittsburgh. We'll have to see how this one goes. This is one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and a matchup that I always like. I think there's going to be a lot more Leafs fans here. Excuse me, for this game, just because it's not on a weekday. Usually, the Leafs have one of the better away fans coming in for other arenas. So I think this one is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Keys, I think, will remain the same. Again, stopping the Leafs top two lines, getting traffic in front of Shalgren. He didn't have a good outing against the Penguins last time. They again had that game-winning goal, which I don't really know if that should have went in. Penalty kill, continuing to play well against the Leafs power play that can score at will. Power play, would like to see that get going as well. And, continuing to get scoring from all four lines. I would love to see the fourth line contribute offensively again on Saturday. I do not expect them to score 3 of the 4 goals if the Penguins get 4 goals against the Leafs, but it'll be nice to see them contribute again. But also, have the top 6 get in there when needed. This one, should be a lot of fun. The Penguins will be going for their 6th straight win, and they'll be going for 8 out of their last 10. So that really wraps up this small little preview of the game against the Leafs. I mean, I've previewed them numerous times this year. You can go back and listen to those as well. Last but not least, though, to finish up this episode, Winter Classic jersey. So as I kind of scooped on the show and as I scooped overall in, just on my Twitter and stuff, I did say that it was going to be a Black Friday release. Got that right. And I also got the overall jersey right. I will put it to the screen here on my phone if you all want to see this. My phone, I think, is zoomed in. Yeah. So, the P is the crest directly in the center of it. 2 black lines going across of it, and then the full white jersey. There was a mock out there saying that there was going to be a Penguins across from it. I was told that was not going to be the case. Got that right as well. My overall thoughts on the jersey, I think it's okay. I don't like it. I also don't hate it. It's kind of mid, as the kids like to say. It's average. Yeah, I think this jersey, it's going to be forgotten about. Just like you remember the Stadium Series game against the Blackhawks. I believe that was 2014, if I recall correctly. People were up in arms about that. Just a regular mid-tier jersey. They wore that, I think, one more time, maybe 1 or 2 more times after that. Never wore them again. That's basically what you're going to see here. They may wear them one more game this season after the Winter Classic. They may not wear them again. Everyone's going to forget about it. It's going to be whatever. So, I mean, people, you can like it, you can hate it, but, more than likely they're only going to wear it one more time. One time, excuse me. And if it's more than that, it's probably just one other time. So, that's really all the thoughts I have on the Winter Classic jersey. Just glad I got a couple of things right about it. And, you all can see that jersey in early January when the Penguins head up to Fenway Park to play the Bruins in the Winter Classic. So that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. Really appreciate all of you listening to this one. Hope you got some good Black Friday shopping done. Hope you got your loved ones and your friends and your family some good Penguins related stuff. I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving for my American listeners with your family and friends. Ate some good food. I am absolutely stuffed from the meals that I had in the previous day and a half. But again, that will do it for this one. I'll be back with more episodes next week. Starting on Monday, we will preview. Oh, actually, no, we will not preview. We will recap the game against Toronto, and then we will also preview the game against Carolina on Tuesday. Then I will be fully recapping that one. That'll be the Penguins' first matchup against the Hurricanes this year. Right now, Penguins in 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division, 1 point out of 2nd behind the New York Islanders. I think the demise of this team was exaggerated just a little bit, and they're back to playing some winning hockey, and they are in a playoff spot. So again, Thank you all so much for listening. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. We'll see how the team does on Saturday. I'll talk to you all again on Monday.